Welcome to the Graduate Research School's 2022 induction for incoming graduate research students. My name is Dr. Sarah Kinkle-Miller. I am the Manager for Graduate Researcher Development at the Graduate Research School, and I will be your MC for the afternoon. Before we begin, I do want to start by acknowledging the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, upon whose ancestral lands our city campus now stands. I would also like to pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging, and to acknowledge them as the traditional custodians of knowledge for this land. So let me just briefly lay out our agenda for the day. So today is really all about helping you lay the foundations for success early. And the first part of our session today is understanding how UTS can support your research and well-being. And you are going to hear from a very wide range of units and services across the university that focus on doing exactly that. You are going to see lots of faces, lots of places, and you won't need everything that they can offer right now, but it will be there for you when you do. And then the second part of our session today is understanding how you can take ownership of your own unique graduate research journey. So pragmatically, how do you get from today to the day you actually submit your thesis, which I know feels like a long time away, but I promise there's absolutely things that you want to know now. And also professionally, how can you make sure that you are getting the most possible out of your time in HDR study? So it's not just about supporting your research, it's also about supporting you, right? Your professional development, your well-being. There will be some dedicated time for Q&A, but I also want to encourage you to put any questions you might have in the chat throughout. We do have several members of the Graduate Research School here with us today to answer questions. Also, some of our guest appearances will not necessarily be with us for the whole time. So if there are specific questions you have for people, go ahead, pop them in the chat. We're going to do our best to keep answering those along the way. We will share this recording with you after the fact. Again, let me reiterate, we're recording. We'll also share the slides as well. So feel free to take some notes, but don't feel like you need to take everything down word for word. We got you. If you take one thing away from today, it is that GRS is here to help, as are many other parts of UTS, and we are here to listen. And with that, I want to hand over to the director of the Graduate Research School, Yamini Sandaran.
Thank you, Sarah. As Sarah indicated, I'm Yamini Sandaran. I'm the director of the Graduate Research School, a school that looks after the academic and the administrative direction of research training at UTS. We work in collaboration with the faculties as well as all other units at the university to provide a successful and engaging research training program. I would like to welcome you all on behalf of the university for your program, and I hope it's an enjoyable experience. As Sarah said, today's induction will take you through all your academic and administrative processes that you will be engaging in as you go through. But remember, reach out to your supervisor, your faculty RAOs and faculty managers and the Graduate Research School if there's any issue that you need help. We are there, so use us, reach out to us, don't hesitate. The recording from today will be available to you. There's also always a wealth of information on our website. And we are located on level 7 of the UTS main campus, the tower. And so you're most welcome to drop by and say hello and seek out anything. So most of all, I would thank you for choosing to study at UTS and enjoy your experience. Welcome. Thanks, Sarah.
I am still on mute because it wouldn't be 2022 if not. Now, no matter where you are zooming in from today, you are part of the UTS community now, and that is a really vibrant and diverse one. You are part of over 2,000 HDR students alongside 30,000 undergraduates and 10,000 postgraduate coursework students. And you're also part of a community of researchers in both our academic and professional staff. So You've joined a community of scholars who are committed to high quality, globally respected research that makes a significant impact, and you will soon be working at the forefront of your field. And I just really, again, want to start by reiterating what a highly valued part of the UTS researcher community you really are. And I want to take a minute here to talk that community up. I know in some ways you don't need to be sold on it because you're already here, but I think that you deserve to be proud and excited. So UTS is a world-class young university. You know, we're just over 30 years old. We're Australia's top young university and the #8 young university globally. And what UTS really focuses on is transformational research, research that is really going to make an impact on our society, our communities, and our world. We have a range of flagship areas, but one of the key themes that we emphasize is the role that technology plays in society. And that means integrating perspectives from the humanities and arts and social sciences, so HAS, with STEM, technology, engineering, and maths across our research activities. So we are a young university, but we are also increasingly recognized for the quality and the impact of the research that we carry out. So all of the research that UTS put forward for the Australian government's standard excellence in research assessment was deemed to be world standard or above. We're number 54 in the world in terms of the proportion of our research that's published in leading science journals. But one of the statistics that we are particularly proud of is that we are the highest ranking university in Australia when it comes to the proportion of our research that has a high impact outside of academia. So at UTS, we are committed to a sustainable future, to social justice, to excellence in Indigenous higher education and research, and to being a leader in conversations about the responsible use of technology to support a rapidly changing society. I think the too long didn't read version of that is that we are doing research that matters to other scholars, and we're doing research that has real meaning in our communities. And that's the community that you've joined. So UTS Research is excellent. Our people are excellent, as hopefully you will be finding out. We have a focus on technology and society. We focus on research that meets society's needs. We focus on research that delivers distinct value, on our connectedness with one another and our partners. We're disciplinarily diverse and transdisciplinary. We have a culture of creativity and creative practices, and we connect our research and our teaching. And you should expect to be fully integrated into this research community. We expect and support you to publish, to speak in conferences, and to participate in other industry, creative, or professional research-based events. But of course, we also recognize that you are developing as researchers, and there are a number of frameworks in place to help ensure that that happens. So all graduate research programs at UTS are guided by the Graduate Research Education Framework, the GREF. And this framework lays out expectations about the kind of support that you'll receive while you're here. And it's a little bit of a roadmap for your candidature. So the goal is to ensure that you are supported to carry out original graduate research, which supports the advancement of knowledge, and also that you're being developed as a professional researcher who is prepared to make impact in the career path of your choice. So the GREF says that you will have a panel of supervisors. You will go through 3 formal candidature stages and assessments before you submit your thesis for examination. You will have an annual review of progress to make sure that you are still on track with your research. You will have a graduate research study plan that empowers you to choose your own development and training opportunities. There will be mandatory and optional training elements to your degree, and your research will follow best practice. And so in terms of ensuring that you are staying on track, I think 2 of the really core elements there are that annual review of progress, which focuses on the research itself. Is your research progress progressing? And then the graduate research study plan, which focuses on your professional development. Are you developing the capabilities and the skills that not only make your research possible, but also are relevant to a diverse range of careers? And that graduate research study plan is really guided by the HDR capability framework. So we're going to talk a lot more about all of that in the second part of induction, so I won't really spend more time on it now. Taken together, the graduate research education framework is really the broader institutional framework that covers and supports your candidature as a whole. I think the HDR capability framework is more of a personal framework that focuses on supporting you as a professional researcher. And then there are a number of really pragmatic, practical programs that help put all of that into reality. And that is really what I want to talk about next. So as you're going to hear here shortly, GRS is definitely not the only place on campus that supports your research. But we do also support your research. And we do that primarily through our Researcher Development and Support Program, which supports you really through 5 main aspects of your HDR study. So we support you as you integrate into a culture of research excellence. We offer a series of orientation workshops that focus on helping you find your feet in this first year in particular, and more on that in a sec. We support you to demonstrate integrity and respect. We connect you to mandatory online modules on maintaining appropriate and respectful relationships, and also on the responsibility of researchers to act with principles like honesty, trust, respect, rigor. You will also have to complete a research data management plan, which is part of responsible research. And all of that part needs to happen by your stage 1 assessment. We support you to design your research journey, to customize your HDR experience through the graduate research study plan. We offer a number of workshops and other resources that support your personal and professional development. Really, your research project is different from literally everyone else's. That's the thing about HDR research. And you've had a different set of experiences up till now, and you probably want to go someplace different on the other side. You deserve an HDR experience that acknowledges and supports that. We support you as you develop your career through the opportunity to undertake a professional placement, if that's something that you want to do, through online modules to guide your job search, and through opportunities to build your profile. And we also support you to cultivate your well-being. And I think this is just so important. And I know you're going to hear more about this here in a few minutes, but it's so much harder to write a good thesis when you're anxious or struggling or isolated. And we think that well-being should be an integral aspect of all UTS student and staff experiences, definitely including HDRs. And we offer workshops to develop tools and strategies of self-care and resilience. There's online resources, and there's opportunities to connect with the community around you. Now, you will be able to find all of GRS's upcoming events on Humanitics. The link is there on the screen. Again, this slide will be emailed to you after the fact here. They're also, of course, listed on our website, and you can navigate to them from there as well. Each of our orientation workshops coming up over the next several months offers concrete resources, advice, and guidance from a mix of professional researchers drawn from across the UTS community, some of our research support staff, and other HDRs as well who've been through it recently. So what you can look forward to in the next few months, managing the relationship with your supervisor. This is such a crucial foundation for your overall HDR experience. And it's really, really valuable to be able to understand that relationship and to set some expectations early. Success and well-being for HDRs. Again, this is about making sure that you're flourishing as an HDR, not just sort of surviving as an HDR, but really flourishing. It is, again, just so much harder to be successful in the ways that you want to be successful when that's not the case. Ethical and responsible research. Again, this is a core researcher responsibility. This session will help you navigate ethics requirements and start to become ethically reflexive. Speaking to a wider audience, I am convinced this is one of the most important skills you will learn while you're in HDR, how to convince people who don't already care about your research that they actually really do, and learning to speak really compellingly about the things that you're passionate about. Data planning and management. Again, this is another really core researcher requirement, both pragmatically and ethically. And then finally, preparing for stage 1 assessment of candidature. So really some resources and guidance and advice that will help get you through that first big hurdle in your research journey. We also offer a number of workshops focusing on research literacy, so how to communicate compellingly, both through effective written communication, understanding how to conceptualize and approach and make sense of the literature review. Again, another really early stage in your research project. And then as you progress a little bit further, thinking about how to structure and organize a dissertation that is successful in its discipline. But it is not just live workshops. GRS also offers a growing suite of online modules on campus that are available to all of our HDRs. These are flexible, self-paced learning opportunities that are there when you need them, where you need them. Again, we know that many of us are a bit scattered from campus still, although we hope to see you on campus. We know that we're in diverse places, and these are available when and where you need them. So this is what's online now, but this will continue to expand this year. And if there's something that you wish that we offered additional training in, you can let me know. Currently, we have modules in both qualitative and quantitative research methods. Some of those will help you a little bit with research design as well. Research literacy. So again, all of those workshops that I just mentioned have Canvas resources that are associated with them as well that you can work through even outside of the workshops themselves. Intellectual property essentials. So again, a really great set of knowledge for HDRs who are creating new knowledge and often creating new technologies and new innovations as well. And then a series of modules focused on HDR career. So helping you proactively design a career and then sort of pursue it through the job application and interview process. We also offer a number of community building events and opportunities. Researcher Cafe happens on the second Thursday of every month. This is an opportunity to do some networking, to connect with fellow HDRs, to learn from fellow HDRs, and also to connect with research support staff on a variety of topics. Each session will have one or more support areas from around the university to just present and available to answer your questions on topics like professional placements, counseling, scholarships, candidature management. So just a wide range of things that might be useful to you. The topics are available on the event page on Humanitics, but even if you're not interested in the topic for the day, you are still welcome to come and network and socialize anyway. I also would really encourage you to engage with the HDR Community Teams channel, which all of you should be members of right now. There is a wide range of information on that Teams channel, everything from announcements from GRS, often me, but not always me, updated information from your faculty HDR rep, self-organized like shut up and write sessions, a very impressive collection of HDR memes so you can get a little bit of a giggle in. So a really wide range of resources are available there. And in addition to the overarching channels that go across all of the HDR community, there's faculty specific channels as well. So you can ask questions that are sort of specific to your cohort and specific to your faculty. With that, I have shockingly managed to finish my part ahead of time, and I am going to hand over to Sophie Lyons, who's going to talk to us about ResHub.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Sarah mentioned, my name is Sophie. I am the manager for ResHub here at UTS. You may be wondering what that is and what it means. Before I start talking through a quick rundown of ResHub exactly, I wanted to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land which I'm currently sitting on. So that's the Gadigal and the Eora Nation. I want to pay my respects to past elders and future and emerging communities as well as the custodians of knowledge for this place. Let me play around with my screen share and see if I can get the right one, and then we're ready to kick off. I think you may have, my presentation will be a little bit different compared to everyone else's today for a couple of reasons, and you'll hopefully be able to find that out in a second. So ResHub refers to the Research Excellence and Support Hub. There we go. Is that coming across? Nod your head if it is. Excellent, thank you. Crowdsourcing support, I think, is the common tool for IT support in 2022. So ResHub, what is it? It's a number of things, and it's almost everything, and it's almost nothing. So let's talk through a little bit of a definition. Hopefully you can see that. ResHub is a multimodal service. So what does that mean? It's both a digital platform and a physical location. It's available to the entire UTS Research network. So that includes academics, researchers yourselves, professional staff from faculties to kind of our internal support teams, straight through to our vice chancellors and our deputy vice chancellors. Our external partners and our industry collaborators, so our wonderful connections with our community, both corporate, social enterprise, and NGO. And its aim is really to support research excellence, research development, and research community. So I know that that does sound like a whole heap of business buzzwords, and in essence, sometimes it can be, but essentially ResHub really aims to be a partner in your research journey. So facilitating support, facilitating access to tools, facilitating access to the internal community to get that advice and to get that support that you might require. So I mentioned we're both a digital platform and we're a physical environment. So you can see there, we've got a little screenshot of our website just sitting there. We had a wonderful strategic partnerships opportunity come through. And we've also got our physical environment, which has 2 entrances, both from building 1 and from the UTS library. So ResHub sits just in here and we have a beautiful terrace that looks out over the UTS campus. So talking to the digital platform, the website really aims to answer the very needs of the research community. So its real refined and distinct aim is to support high quality, impactful research practices, projects and collaborations for everyone at UTS. We really would like to be a trusted source of central support, central tools, and a place to access expertise. What does that
Sorry to interrupt, Sophie, but your slides aren't changing.
Oh, they're not? Oh, okay. Let me see. Thanks for letting me know, Kate. Is that a little bit better? Nods of heads.
I'm still seeing the same one.
Okay. Let's do. How's that? Anything coming across?
Still seeing the same one. I'm so sorry. I was just when you started talking about a map, I was like, there's definitely no map.
Oh, I was
still on the
pointing to our actual physical location and everyone looked really encouraged and obviously no one knew where it was. Okay. Solutions. Okay, let me unplug from my Okay, so I'm going to stop screen sharing on my screens and hopefully what that does is help with the access to stuff. Okay, let's do this again. And Kate, you're going to be brave and let me know if it's coming through. Kate, is that coming through?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Okay, let's see. How about now?
Yeah, we see it in presentation mode, but that's fine. Yeah, it's good.
Okay. Testing for the 3rd and final time. Is that coming through?
Try changing slides. Yes, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, success. Whew. Right, so here's our screenshot of the website that I did reference a little bit earlier. I'm sure you would have remembered. And there's our wonderful physical location. You can see the brand new building here and our lovely olive trees. ResHub sits just in here. So we're accessible through building 1 and through building 2. So through the UTS library, and you can also access us just as a general from level 5. Let's see if we can go to the next one. Okay, so the digital platform did mention this a little bit, but it essentially aims to answer your needs across tools, support, and expertise, supporting your practice, supporting your projects, and supporting your collaborations. At the moment, what does it look like? So it looks like this screenshot at the bottom. You can see here we have our 4 main menu items. We have capabilities, we have tools, research opportunities, and this wonderful at UTS. Now, Sarah mentioned some professional development and support training and some events as well. That's all going to sit under capabilities. You can see we have our events and our online training as the second and the third menu item. Systems, tools, and data support. So this is anything from symplectic to research master, straight through to particular quantitative analysis tools or anything that you might need for your research project. That's going to sit just under tools in research systems. And our final main kind of pillar of content is funding and grant opportunities, and they're going to sit in research opportunities. We have our find funding and library of successful grants. So 3 kind of main functions to focus on: events and training, systems and tools, and our lovely grant opportunities. So I did mention we are hybrid, we're multimodal, so it also means we have a beautiful physical environment, which has a little bit of a different aim. So it's really focusing on celebrating community, celebrating collaborative working, and celebrating UTS's research successes. So we have a number of facilities at ResHub that can work across your research project, from an event space to a meeting room, a recording studio, there's a kitchen in there, there's a beautiful terrace. It's a wonderful space, and as I mentioned, access via 2 kind of entrances. So what physically is at ResHub? We have a 40-seat event space that's supported by state-of-the-art technology. We have a specialized self-recording studio, which got a lot of use over COVID, I have to say. So it allows you to record, whether it's a presentation or you're speaking to a conference or you're recording a journal piece, you're able to do that in that specialized studio. We have a co-working space that's for the entire research community. So not only staff, but also HDR students and the professional teams utilize that space as well. We have an 88-seat meeting room that supports our virtual meetings and our group discussions and collaborations. So that one's bookable. And we have our beautiful outdoor terrace. Now, everyone can book these. You can do them via your Outlook meeting request just by searching for ResHub in the location field. Now, I did mention earlier that ResHub is a little different from everyone else today, and that's for a variety of reasons. We're working on it. So ResHub is undergoing a business transformation. So we're rebuilding 3 main aspects of ResHub. We're looking at the digital platform, we're uplifting some aspects of the physical environment, and we're focusing on the rethinking of some business processes and strategies that underpin ResHub. So I mentioned before that our aim is to be your partner in your research journey at UTS, and to really live up to that and to achieve that in all of its glory, we have some work to do. So we're focusing on a couple of goals to get us there. We're really working towards building a user experience that is as intuitive and is as smooth and is of much ease and clarity that we can. Focusing on some basic service delivery requirements, our functional capacity of the site, and ensuring that our content is of high quality, high relevance, high purpose, and of high value to you as an audience. So we might not be the best that we can be at this current point in time, but it's in train and it's in line for delivery. So you might notice some changes throughout the site in the next 6 to 9 months, or our physical space might have a different look. Don't be alarmed. It's all part of the plan, and we'll be communicating to you what is happening in ResHub and what changes are being launched and released next as we move through that project. So that's all from me. I'm hoping that each presentation gives you a lot of positive energy and a lot of encouragement, and kind of fills you with the much needed enthusiasm moving into a project quite like your higher degree research. So Sarah, I'm going to pass back to you, hopefully.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you so much, Sophie. So next, we're going to hear a little bit about how UTS can support you in the broader context of student services, and again, really particularly on some of your broader well-being. And we have Brett Scott here to talk about that. Thank you so much, Brett.
Thank you, Sarah. So I'm going to talk to you about some of the services that are listed on the screen here, and hopefully we'll help in keeping you as happy as these people are looking here. So firstly, talking about the elements that can support your career, both during and after your candidature, there's a range of services that you can see here that will support you. If you're going on an internship that Sarah mentioned, there's support for that. There's career advice on a one-to-one basis. There are online services that you can access as well as face-to-face services. So there are career consultants that can guide you through those tools, can meet with you either online or on campus and assist you for your use of any of those tools or to discuss your own personal objectives. There's also a lot of events that are coordinated by the Careers Service. For example, later on today, 2 o'clock till 5 o'clock, if we finish here, there's the March Super Fair that you could perhaps hook into the end of. And there's always available a professional mentoring platform. And it's not a kind of one-to-one long-term relationship with a mentor that's being offered here. It's what we call flash mentoring or one-to-many mentoring. So there's a pool of mentors that are available. You can pose a question to the pool. You can arrange to have a short interaction with a mentor, and then you can dip out again if you want to. The Rate My Resume service is an online service where you can upload your resume and have it rated for a number of factors that make it the best that an employer will look for. There's the opportunity to then make any adjustment to it and then resubmit it until it's as good as you can make it. There's also the opportunity on the careers site, which is on level 4 of building 2, that's the new building behind me, to have a photo taken to use a professional photo for your LinkedIn profile. On the same level as the ResHub that Sophie talked about is UTS Helps. You can engage there for a consultation with the advisors that can help you with your written expression, punctuation, the structure of your thesis, communication with your supervisor, and accessing some of the other supports that I'm talking about today. They also have some social connection opportunities. There's the Conversation at UTS group. They meet regularly with volunteers, including staff and students of UTS, who facilitate conversations. They won't necessarily be about a topic area that relates to your research, but there'll be prompts that enable people to talk to one another and to make connections. Also on the connections side, there's the buddy program, where you can sign up to be a buddy of a new incoming international student, or if you're an international student, you can sign up to have a buddy with a domestic student. That's available both online and face-to-face. You can see on the screen here some of the figures about disability. Around 18% in 2018 of the population had a disability, and that's 1 in 9 of people aged 0 to 64 years. So I can expect that within the university community, there'll be quite a few people with disabilities as well. And we have a service that caters for access needs for people with a disability or any ongoing medical condition, or even a brief medical condition. Say, for example, you break your arm and you're unable to use a computer for a while. We have services to help with that. There's a huge range of services. For example, just today we've been talking about a student who's legally blind who needs some assistance with diagrams. And we're working out how to get 3D prints of the diagrams so that we can assist that student. All these things are available to students just by asking. There's also a group that we engage with on campus. We contract this group called Batia. You may have heard of them. Their name means the mythical elephant, which is why the elephants are on screen. It's the elephant on the room in terms of mental health. Previously, there was a lot more stigma about mental health in Australia than there is today. This organisation started to help people tell their stories about coming through a mental health challenge. So what they do is they train students who've had a mental health challenge to go out and talk to other students, to tell them how they've come through and to encourage people to seek help. It's because the person who founded this, Sebastian, told me when he first came to talk to me at UTS that he hadn't sought help for a number of years because of shame. So this group works to make mental health something that we all talk about on campus. And speaking of Talk, there's also Talk Campus, which is a 24/7 peer support program. Anyone can sign up to anonymously. It's available in multiple languages. And of course, being 24/7, you can get to it anytime. It's moderated chat. So it's moderated by AI in the first place. And then if there are concerns, that's escalated to a clinical professional who can jump in and help. At UTS, you might have heard of our program called Respect Now Always. It's to do with the national campaign of the same name. And we're looking to eliminate all types of sexual violence from UTS campus. And when we say sexual violence, we're talking about everything that's on the screen here. On the left, from right over at locker room banter or transphobic comments, right through to the most serious at the other end of the scale. And so we have a program that you'll hear about. You'll see on campus people wearing Respect Now Always t-shirts. And we also have an online reporting system where if anything like this happens or you witness it happening on campus, you can make a report and we'll do what we can to make sure that the person gets assistance and of course that it never happens again on campus. We always centre our activities around what the reporting person wants. So we have a very tight range of procedures to make sure that whoever reports something, we really support them throughout the whole process. We have a health service on the level above the ResHub in Building 1, and it has everything that you would expect of a health service. Male and female GPs, you can get vaccinations of all sorts there. If you're an international student, you'll probably have difficulty getting a COVID vaccination from a general GP. But coming up on the 18th of this month, that's this Friday, we have a vaccine clinic where you can get your COVID vaccination there if you're an international student. You can book at any time with the health service by calling the main number there, 9514-1177. And we have, as I say, GPs and nurses who will help you there with anything that you need. Services that don't necessarily come under my remit, but that can also assist you are the Students Association. Students Association is an independent body. So while it's funded by your student services and amenities fees, which UTS disperses to the Students Association, they have a degree of independence. So if you need advice and advocacy, then the Students Association is where you want to go. They also have some equipment loans, some dongles, I believe. There's a student legal service, which can help with everything to do with tenancy matters or anything indeed that you want to get advice about, and they can refer to further support. Students Association also provides free food on campus, which is, if you see large queues in the foyer of Building 1, you'll know that the Bluebird Brekkie Bar or Night Owl is on. We also have a multi-faith chaplaincy with chaplains from multiple denominations. You don't need to have a faith perspective in order to talk with the chaplains, but there's a prayer room there, and it's bookable by UTS clubs and societies and by the chaplains themselves. So that's a range of the services that we have, and there are more. You'll find all of them at that website. Finally, you may want to put this number into your phones. This is a campus security phone, and the quickest way to have it in your phone is, of course, to have AA security. We encourage anybody to report anything first to security, and all of the services that I have work together with security. We all want to make the campus a safe place, and it's been rated by students as a safe place in our student satisfaction survey for many years running. We want to keep it that way. Thank you very much, Sarah.
Brett, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Next, we are going to hear from the UTS Library, and that is Crystal Campbell, who is here to speak to us today.
Hi, everyone. I just commented about the Night Owl Noodle Bar in the chat, you can see. I'll just share my slides, one moment. Just Oh, can I be given access to share my, oh, no, I can. There we go. Okay, can everybody see that? Yep, perfect. Okay. Hi, everyone. I am Crystal Campbell, and I am here from UTS Library to give all of you a rundown about the facilities and services and resources that the UTS Library provides to all of you. So the UTS Library is here to support you at every stage of your degree, and we have a wide variety of spaces and collections and resources and services that we have not only collected to make available to you, but we've also tried to curate them in such a way that you are able to find the things most relevant to you as quickly and easily as possible. And we are staffed by friendly librarians like myself. I didn't write that paragraph, one of my colleagues did, who are ready to help you. So just to explain, for example, my role and what I do is I work directly with faculties to create workshops and resources and other such things to specifically help students with what they are studying. And so I work with the Graduate School of Health and the Faculty of Health, but we have librarians in my team who work with all of the faculties to provide services and resources to all of you. And so I will go through and show you a little bit of what those resources and services look like. So as you might have heard from the ResHub presentation, the UTS Library is located in UTS Central, which is the big new glass building that some people say looks a little bit like a glass teacup. I kind of see it. And so the first thing you should probably know is that UTS Library doesn't take up the entirety of this building. So you might see this whole building referred to as UTS Library, but we only take up part of it. So this bottom area that you see here that's sort of poking out from levels 5 through to level 7, that is the UTS Library's reading room. This is a gorgeous 3-story atrium. So the reading room itself is levels 5 and 6, but you can also see it from level 7. And it's a really nice place to study. And then attached to that on levels 7, 8, and 9. I'm not sure if you can see my mouse, but I'm gesturing with my mouse. We have the library itself. So there are 2 ways you can get access to us. There are gates into the reading room on level 5, and there are gates into the library itself on level 7, and there are gates going between the library and the reading room on level 7 and 6. So that is our physical space. And just to give you a rundown of what sort of things we have in our physical space, we have ample study space throughout the reading room and the library. We have a lot of open desk space throughout the library, and depending on your preferences with regards to how quiet you like things to be, we have different study spaces to accommodate that. So level 7 is considered like a standard amount of noise, and you might hear a lot of chatter. Level 8 is considered a quiet level, so you might hear a little bit of whispering but not a lot of talking. And level 9 is a silent floor, so you won't hear much noise there. We don't technically regulate the amount of noise in the reading room, but we do find that people are very quiet in there anyway, just because it's a big glass atrium and the sound carries, so people tend to be very quiet just out of habit. On levels 7 and 8, we also have a series of bookable study spaces that are a little bit more private. On level 7, we have study pods, which are sort of desks that are partly walled off, so you can meet up there with a group, but they're not actually enclosed rooms. And on level 8, we do have enclosed rooms, and you can book those spaces and other spaces around campus through the room booking system on our website. Now, this is a little bit early for me to be flagging this with all of you, but on level 10 of the building, we do also have a Scholars Centre. You technically don't get access to this until later on in your time as an HDR, but I wanted to let you guys know about it so that you can look forward to that. It's up on level 10 with a lovely view over Broadway, and it is just a quieter, more private space just for researchers who are further along in their research journeys up on level 10. And lastly, on level 7, we have our service desks. We currently have 2 separate service desks. The one that you see pictured here is our sort of circulation desk, and that's what you might think of traditionally as being a library desk. It's where you'll go to find out about things we have in our collection and borrowing and returns and all that sort of thing. We are also currently operating a research support desk and a study support desk that is also located on level 7. So there's a lot of information on this slide, but I will try to keep it very brief. With regards to the library's collections, for borrowing physical items as HDRs, you have unlimited borrowing. You can borrow as many books as you like, and there is no limit. Our books in our collection also automatically, or rather all physical items in our collection also renew automatically, meaning that you don't have to keep track of due dates. As long as nobody else has requested to have that item after you, that item will automatically renew on your record. So you shouldn't have to worry too much. In terms of our physical collection, we do also have, as well as books, which is what you might associate with a library, we also have films and board games and popular fiction. So we try to make our collection both good for academic purposes, but also good for getting a break from studying and research, because I think that's very important as well. So we do have a wide variety of things available at UTS Library. Lastly, with regards to the physical collection, if there is something that you desperately need and we don't have it in our collection, you are absolutely able to lodge an interlibrary loan request, and we can look that up and try to get a hold of that for you. Our librarians are very good at tracking things down, especially books and journal articles. So if there is something that you need and it's not in our collection, that's not the end of it. We can try to get that for you. Now moving on to some of our digital resources in the bottom row here. UTS Library subscribes to over 200 databases. Basically what that means is that if you find that you're doing your research in, say, Google Scholar, and you keep hitting paywalls and being told that you need to pay money, don't ever pay money for a journal article. That's what we're here for. We pay for all of that for you. So any database that you need to access, do that accessing through the UTS Library's website, and you'll be able to get access to the journal articles within. Our database list, obviously having 200 titles, is a very long list. So we have also in the database section of our website, organized those by faculty and discipline level to make it really easy for all of you to find the databases that are going to be most useful for what you are doing research in. As well as academic databases, we also subscribe to some other really useful tools, such as Grammarly, which if you've seen any ads on YouTube in the past couple of years, is a spell check, writing check. It looks over things like wording and phrasing and makes recommendations. It's very powerful and very useful. And similarly, if you're familiar with podcasts or YouTubers, you might have seen ads for something like Skillshare, which is sort of an online courses thing. LinkedIn Learning is functionally very similar. It's a platform of online courses and video tutorials for all different skills, both to do with studying and software, and also creative skills if you just want to pick up a new hobby. So very useful. With regards to software that you can download, UTS Library also provides referencing managers, which most HDRs do find exceptionally useful. And we do also support those, so you can get help with using them from us as well as getting the software itself. So the next thing I want to draw your attention to is this section of our website, which is the services for researchers. It's kind of a good recap of what I'm about to talk about with regards to the services and resources that we provide. So to find this, all you have to do is go to the services tab across the top of our website, and services for researchers as I think the third one along. So this covers some of the informational pages we have on some core aspects of the researcher journey, such as literature searching, data management, publication and metrics, all that sort of stuff. And you'll also find links out to places like the ResHub, who we work very closely with to coordinate some of our workshops and training that we do, which I'll go into a little bit more later, and other important things. So if you take nothing else away from what I'm talking about, check out this Services for Researchers page, because it's kind of going to be a good recap of everything that I cover here. Okay, so going on to resources, we have the study guides. Now, as HDRs, you might not necessarily think about what you're doing as studying, so rather doing research. So you might think the study guides aren't necessarily for you. Maybe they're aimed at undergrads or master's coursework students. I do still recommend familiarizing yourself with our study guides, because we have created them with a wide audience in mind, and they're very broadly applicable to your discipline area. And so the librarians from my department, who, as I mentioned before, do work very closely with faculties, have put these study guides together to be a sort of starting point to go from when you are beginning any kind of study, whether it be coursework study or research study. And so we do have skill areas around things like advanced database searching and that sort of thing across all of these different discipline areas. So I highly recommend checking out the study guides, especially if you are completely new to UTS. If you studied your previous degrees at UTS, you're possibly already familiar with a lot of the things you might find in the study guides, but still worth having a look. But if you do happen to be completely new to UTS and you have to get to know the UTS library system and everything, these study guides are a really good workaround for that, and a really good way to get you acquainted with UTS library very quickly. Moving on, because I have a lot to cover and not very much time, we have video tutorials that the librarians in my department have made, covering all sorts of areas from, again, that sort of advanced database searching in different discipline areas, and you'll see from the screenshot, you'll see searching health, all the way to videos on things like research data management, referencing, using referencing software, and then also just basic tips for getting used to using the UTS Libraries catalog. So we've created all of these, we've made them nice and polished, and these are all available on our UTS Library YouTube channel. So if you do want to get a bit of an overview of the UTS Library and the different things that we offer and how to go about navigating those, these are a really good visual way of getting that experience. Just search UTS Library on YouTube. Now, the things that you'll probably get most familiar with the librarians in my department through the workshops and training that we offer. So throughout both autumn and spring session, we run a series of workshops specifically designed for and targeted to HDRs, covering topics related to literature searching, systematic reviews, research data management, publishing and metrics, and advanced referencing and referencing software. I'm actually the librarian that coordinates this, so I can tell you with absolute authority that those workshops are in the works currently, and they will be getting advertised in the coming few weeks. So keep an eye on our library website newsfeed, and also the ResHub website, because we do have our workshops advertised on the ResHub website also, because those workshops will be coming and news of them will be coming in the next few weeks. But if you do go to the workshops and you sort of have more complicated and advanced questions that you feel like you maybe need some one-on-one time with a librarian about, we do also offer research consultations. And so, as again, I've mentioned, our librarians work directly with faculties, and as a result, we end up being very experienced in the databases that you'll be using for your research. And because of that, we tend to be able to give very in-depth advice on things relating to data management and searching and using referencing software effectively for your research. So I do highly recommend checking out a research consultation with one of us at some point in your research journey. But usually as you're going into that sort of finding research articles and materials and that sort of thing, that's I think when we're most effective to helping you guys out. So in conclusion, the library is here to help. Don't hesitate to reach out to us because especially for the librarians in my department, that is 100% what we're here for. Also, if you are remote and want to get into contact for some quick advice immediately, we do have a live chat on our website that is staffed by real librarians. I promise it's not robots. And you can reach out to us and get quick answers to your questions. And also, just as a last plug, I do recommend following the library on Instagram and Facebook, just because you do tend to get the latest news and updates very quickly through those streams. So that is it from UTS Library. I've just had a couple of questions with regards to the student IDs. To my knowledge, you collect those from UTS Library, but we don't actually have anything to do with creating them. They basically just get dropped off to us by the Student Center and you collect it from us. So if you're asking about where to actually get your student ID sorted out and created, you go to UTS Student Center about that. And then I believe to actually physically collect the card, you still come and collect that from the UTS Library's front desk. And if you put in a special request for a journal or conference paper that you can't find in the UTS Library database, absolutely, yes, you can. So again, that's what you would use that interlibrary loan for. Will the upcoming workshops be emailed to all of you? Yes, once I have the workshops uploaded and ready to go, we do create an email that gets sent out to usually faculty mailing lists, and we also send it out to places like ResHub and a lot of different email streams. So yes, absolutely, that gets emailed out. And yes, posted on Teams as well.
Awesome.
And,
thank you so much, Crystal.
You'll also see advertisements for the workshops on the library website too, but I've gone over time by 1 minute, so I will go.
No, I'm amazed. Actually, everyone has been totally on their A game. You guys are crushing it. Thank you
Perfect.
for that.
I realized that I talk very fast, so I hope that it gets got through to everyone. I'm going to run and not take up any more time. If you do have any more questions for UTS Library, as I've mentioned, just hop over to the library website and send the question as a live chat message to one of our librarians, and they can usually answer it pretty quickly. And that's it from me.
Thank you, Crystal. I think if you want to hang out for a sec, there might be a couple more questions in the chat.
Yeah, sure. I'll answer them in
awesome.
chat.
Thanks.
Sure.
I am going to hand over now to Wade Tozer to tell us about UTS Aspire.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks, Sarah, for organising, James as well. Just let me share my screen. Okay, UTS Aspire. So, can you see my presentation there? Perfect. So I'm delivering this on behalf of Colin Halbert, who's the executive manager of the team, and he couldn't join today, so I apologise on his behalf. But the research capability and development team runs UTS Aspire. It's there to enrich the research community along with others, including the library and ResHub as well. But what we want to do through UTS Aspire is bring people together, make people feel like they're part of something bigger than just their own research, make them feel like they're part of an outward-looking community, but inward supportive. So we want to support excellent research at UTS, support collaboration, boost the caliber of research staff, and so upskilling is really important to us. But that sense of community is equally as important as well. And so that's all aligned, of course, with UTS 2027 and the research plan, which you may or may not have heard about, but it's really critically important to what we do at UTS. And of course, the way we do that is to deliver a series of activities, mostly seminars and workshops, panel sessions and that sort of thing across the year, but they're very much open to everybody. So we're not trying to cater to necessarily any cohort or any discipline. We want it to be open to everyone to support that whole community. And of course, we don't do this alone. We do it alongside exactly the library. We deliver everything through ResHub and other providers. So we're part of the support that you can tap into as HDR students. And what I should say, what I'll do next is give you a flavour of the kind of things that we run through Aspire, so you get a sense of what it is. But what you'll probably find that many of them might not be quite so interesting to you now, but if you're in your later stage of your candidature, you're probably interested in thinking about what's next. If you're interested in an academic pathway, then a lot of the things that I will talk about in a minute and that are run through UTS Aspire are likely to be of interest to you. So one thing that we run through UTS Aspire is a series or a program of activities around funding. The Australian research funding landscape is one of those activities or series where we set the scene, we show the landscape, the opportunities that you have to fund your research if you're in that space, and then follow on with a bunch of cascading sessions, each deep diving into the different opportunities that the landscape provides to you. So for example, industry or philanthropy or international grants, and of course the category 1 grants as well. So all of these will be interesting to you if you're thinking about moving into the academic space as you progress in your career. Some of the other things that we do is support certain communities. So Nick Hotwood, Erin Turbot, researchers at UTS in the qualitative data analysis space. They're really passionate about bringing the community together. So what we do is we're helping support these two fantastic researchers by running the qualitative data analysis at UTS series. And Salma, you asked about that in the chat earlier in the session. So this might be of interest to you. And in fact, I may have even bumped into you at some of these in the past. But really, it involves, well, there's a team site, so there's a community that comes together around the team site. But in terms of activity, there are workshops that run across the year that deep dive into some of the aspects that are particular, themes or topics that are of particular interest to the qualitative data analysis community. And then we have, I guess, companion drop-in sessions that really examine some of the data behind some of the themes that pop up in these workshops. So it's very much trying to bring that community of people together, deep dive the themes and topics that are of importance to the community, and then actually pull some of those apart with real data. So some of these things might be of interest to you. The future of health and social care industries is something else that we run. We're helping support Hamish Robertson and Joe Travalia from Health bring this series together. Obviously, it's, well, what it is it's bringing external people from the industries on to UTS and giving them an opportunity to tell us what they think is important in the future. So really future scoping where this area is heading research-wise, but also with industry. So of course, this is going to be really interesting. And we run seminars, 10 across the year, that look into a bunch of different areas of interest, digital leadership, health and technology, AI. All of these things are obviously going to be interesting for people in the health space. But the point is that this is trying to bring in other disciplines into this area as well and explore where these crossovers are. So you might be interested in thinking about this. Equally, we're really interested in helping people communicate their research as well. Clearly, in the grant writing space, we run things that help bring boosting people's skill sets in grant writing, of course, but also in terms of pitching. So we all know how important it is to pitch and know your audience. We give researchers the opportunity to pitch an idea or a topic to both an interdisciplinary panel and a live audience. This helps them improve their pitching skills, but it also gives the live audience an opportunity to see what works and what might not work quite so well. So it's a real eye-opener for people who are interested in pitching. So these are just a couple of the things that we run. We've got a SharePoint site, which I'll put in the chat after I've finished talking, so you can go and explore that. And that'll give you a sense of the other things that we're doing. But I welcome you to go onto that SharePoint page, have a look in there. If there's anything that you think is of interest to you, then please, you're very, very welcome to sign up for those and come along, be part of the community. Please feel that you are part of the community. It gives you insights and allows you to network with the wider community at UTS. And of course, if there's anything missing, I was going to say talk to me, but talk to Sarah. If there's anything that you think that we could work together with Sarah and the library, e-research, whatever it takes. We'd love to be able to make sure that you have a rich and rewarding candidature. So that's all I was going to say, Sarah. I hope that's enough to keep to at least spark some interest. And I'll put the link in the chat, and happy to stick around if there's any questions as well. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Wade. Andreas Merton is going to talk to us about the training and resources that are available from eResearch.
Hi, everyone. I'll just get my slides up. Might be a second. Cool. Hopefully you're seeing a fairly dark colored slide pack at the moment. So yes, my name's Andreas. I'm from the research domain in ITU. Thank you to Sarah and James and everyone else who was involved in organizing this training. And also thank you all for joining us on what is a very sunny afternoon and being indoors. So I suspect that's going to be happening a lot over the next 3 years for a lot of you during your studies, but it will all be worthwhile. So I'm Andreas. I'm from the research domain in the IT unit at the university. And you've gotten a lot of information so far from the other units. So I'm going to kind of race through this stuff, but you can have a look at the slides and kind of come to us. There's a lot of ways you can contact us for more information. So what the research domain does broadly is provide access to resources and platforms that you'll use to manage and conduct your research, and also provide support and advice around the use of those platforms. So a few of the areas around which we do this is research data management and storage. So we provide a lot of support around research data management plans. These are becoming more and more required, and it's actually something you're going to have to do as part of your confirmation of candidature. We also provide access to and advice around research data storage, some of which is located on campus, others of which is in the cloud. We also provide access to things like lab archives, so which is sort of electronic lab notebooks to sort of help you record various details about your research as it's being conducted. And we also provide access to survey tools to collect data for your research. There are also some compute facilities available. Some of them are in-house high-performance computing facilities. Some of them are also in the cloud, and we can also provide consultations on research computing requirements more broadly as well. To sort of underpin a lot of the sort of stuff, we do also provide training and support around these various tools and platforms. So from things like coding, data science, research tools, etc., which we have, and I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. And then we've also got a weekly research IT drop-in, which is from 3 to 4 p.m. every Thursday via Zoom. So this is a place where you can basically come with any of your research IT related questions, and we can either try to answer the question or at least point you in the right direction of getting an answer or more support. Under our domain also sits what's called the data arena. So this is a 360-degree interactive data visualization facility. And it basically allows users to explore data with multi-user interactions. And there's tours that they do, I believe, weekly. So it's worth having a check at one of those when you're next on campus. So this is kind of similar to what I said before, just in a slightly different format. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it. It's basically just sort of like a bit of a research life cycle and the various systems you would be using at the various stages. So for a lot of you, you're at that sort of identified design stage. So be using things like Research Master and Stash. Then you're going to be moving on to actually doing the research. So using something like Qualtrics or RedCap to collect data, storage platforms to sort of obviously store the data, but then also things like the HPC facilities to analyze your data and then eventually store it. So it's similar stuff. Have a bit of a look at that. And if you have any questions, feel free to come and ask us. With our training courses, we kind of offer it along 4 main streams. So research computing, programming, data analysis, and data management, and a few sort of different levels. Now, this is more just to give you an idea of the type of training we do. It isn't the current training roster. I've provided the link for that a little bit later, but it's just to give you a bit of a taste of the type of training that's available. The dark blue ones are actually done by an organization called Intersect, of which we're a partner. And one of the beauties of Intersect is because it's multiple universities, if there's a training course that you'd like to attend, but UTS isn't running it, but say UNSW is, you can attend that if it's being run through Intersect. So it kind of provides a little bit more training options for you to fit your schedules. This is just a bit of a sort of shot of what the data arena looks like. You can actually see it's this very sort of immersive sort of space that you can kind of go into, and people can actually interact with the data there as well. So I'm going to wrap up with this slide. I know there was a lot to go through, but there are a lot of ways to contact us, and please do contact us. You can do it either by submitting a ticket the way you would normally do to IT. You can email us directly. You can also come to the drop-in, which is the link that's right at the bottom there, which, like I said, every Thursday from 3 to 4 p.m. It says that at Penny Lane Cafe. It's currently not a Penny Lane Cafe. It's all, via Zoom. But then we also have, I've also provided the links there to the web pages about the tools and platforms that we have available to you, as well as the training information, including the current training roster. So I'll leave it there and either ask questions or move on to the next speaker, whichever one Sarah feels is most appropriate.
I am going to hand over to Tracy Conroy, who is going to talk to us about equity, diversity, and inclusivity. But Andres, I know there are a couple of questions for you in the chat. So if you don't mind having a look at that, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. I'll just share my screen and then we can get started. Can everyone see that?
No, not yet.
No, not yet. Okay, let me just try again. How about that? No?
Yes, it's working on coming up.
Excellent.
Well, it says that you've started screen sharing. It doesn't technically show anything yet.
Okay. Let me try again. Sorry about that. Oh dear. If anyone knows any jokes while I'm getting this organized. Deary me. Right. I had this all ready before my session, of course. I'm having some technical problems.
I'm going to try sharing it from my screen. I have a copy of the slides open here.
Yeah, would you mind, James? I'm so sorry.
Of course not, no problem. Is that coming through for everyone?
Yes, I think so. Thank you.
Okay, my apologies. Thanks for your time this afternoon, everyone. My name is Tracy Conroy. I'm the Director of Equity, Diversity and Inclusion from the Centre for Social Justice and Inclusion here at UTS. You've obviously received a really great amount of really practical information this afternoon that's going to assist you in your HDR journey. But what I want to just take a small amount of time with you this afternoon is to talk about UTS in more general terms and the type of university we are and the things that are available to you for, personal support, not just professional support. Next slide, please, James. So UTS is committed to creating a safe and respectful environment where everyone is welcome. Everyone has the right to study and work in an environment that's free from discrimination or harassment. And for those of you who may have come to UTS or come to Australia recently, the legislations that are listed there, the Racial Discrimination Act, the Sex Discrimination Act, the Disability Discrimination Act, and the Age Discrimination Act are all pieces of Australian legislation intended to ensure that all Australian citizens are protected in some way. Now that applies to people who are living in Australia and not just Australian citizens. So the Racial Discrimination Act makes it unlawful to discriminate against someone because of their race, their religion, their cultural background, And the areas of public life that it applies to are employment, education, and the provision of public services. So similarly, the Sex Discrimination Act makes it unlawful to treat someone badly because of their sex or their gender, or to sexually harass them or assault them. The Disability Discrimination Act, as the name suggests, means that it's unlawful to treat someone unfavourably because they may have a disability or an ongoing illness. And that applies to us particularly at university, where we have systems and supports in place specifically for students with disability to ensure that they have the best possible opportunity to succeed. And the last one there, the Age Discrimination Act, is there primarily to protect older people in the workforce, to ensure that that we're not treated badly as we get older, which is really good as I'm getting older. So we all have rights and responsibilities under these legislations. It's not just a one-way street. So as staff, we have the responsibility to treat our students well and to treat each other well. And as students, you have the responsibility to treat each other well and to be respectful towards other members of the UTS community. Next slide, please, James. So we also have a number of policies, and while you may not want to read them ad nauseum, unless you get a little bit of insomnia late at night and you think I might read those policies, but they are really important documents for you to at least be aware of that they exist. So our equity, inclusion and respect policy covers a lot of the things that I just spoke about in the legislation area, but it's about a local context. So it's about expectations to treat each other with respect so that we all can all feel safe when we come to UTS to either study or work. The Staff Code of Conduct is a document that covers, obviously, as the name suggests, the code for staff to work appropriately, to work respectfully, and to work professionally. There are a lot of student rules in place, so that's probably a good document for you to definitely familiarise yourself if you haven't done your undergraduate course here at UTS. And similarly, student rights and responsibilities policy. So those student ones are probably a really good ones for you to have a look at some stage of the next 6 to 12 months or so. So unfortunately, UTS is not immune from things going wrong. We'd be naive to think that we don't have racism at UTS, that we don't have sexual harassment at UTS, that maybe some of our students with disabilities aren't treated favourably. So we're not naive to think that things don't happen. But suffice to say that the culture of UTS, or the expectations of UTS, is that this is a safe place for everyone to be. And so we expect you to behave professionally, and we expect you to be treated with respect. So if that doesn't happen, if something happens and that you're feeling uncomfortable, I just want you to know that there's many people at UTS that you can speak to. I think earlier on, Brett from Student Services came and spoke to you about wellbeing. So he would have given you some information about the services available. But you can also talk, if you've got a supervisor that you think, my supervisor's not treating me very nicely, you can speak to your co-supervisor, or you can speak to other faculty staff. If you're feeling uncomfortable, you can have those confidential conversations. You don't have to, go and lodge a formal complaint and, make a big thing of it. It's really important for you to have those confidential chats if you start feeling uncomfortable. Similarly, you can have a confidential chat with myself or one of my staff in the Centre for Social Justice and Inclusion. And our email there is at equity@UTS, or you can reach out to me personally. That's absolutely fine. If something really serious does happen and you do want to lodge a complaint, we do have a student complaints office. You can look them up in the UTS website and find out about the process. And that process is a formal one, but it's also a very solid and sound and supportive one. And obviously there's a UTS counselling service to provide you with that support. So really, I just wanted to talk to you briefly today, and hopefully I'm one of those people that if you never have to see me again, then that's probably a good thing. At the Centre for Social Justice, we do lots of good things to prevent bad things from happening. We run training, we have campaigns, we have some excellent campus activities from time to time. We have lots of different projects that go to promote UTS as being a safe and respectful place. So feel free to have a look at our website too, because there's some excellent information on there. Thank you so much for your time today. I wish you all the best for the next journey of your research, your next part of your research journey, and hopefully I'll meet some of you in person one day. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Tracy. So our last piece of part one here is to speak just a little bit about offshore support. Yamini, did you want to speak to that, or would you like me to?
Apologies, Sarah, I've lost both my mic and video.
That's okay.
I'm happy for you to speak about it, and there to answer questions.
Okay, great, fantastic. Well, I will say then that so obviously, again, we know it has been a wild couple of years, right? And still, we're not all exactly necessarily where we wanted or intended to be at this point. Hopefully that is changing. But even in normal times, research happens in a wide variety of places. Research doesn't always just happen on campus, and your research might reasonably take you to a number of places. So we just want to reiterate that many of the programs that you've heard about today are either fully online or have online accessibility. GRS's orientation workshops are all still on Zoom, and they will be recorded and available after the fact. Obviously, our Canvas resources live online eternally. I also want to note that even outside of some of that research support, some of that well-being support is also available for offshore students. So, for example, through the Student Assistance Program, there is international students overseas can access 24/7 counseling from their home country in either a confidential phone or online session. You can use the link here, and again, these slides will be emailed to you. You use the code UTS, and once you get on the website, you click on contacting your student assistance program for the phone number for your location. I also want to come back to the point about engaging with the HDR Community Teams channel, which I think is just a really great way to stay connected and part of the UTS community, even when you're not physically here. So that's what I have to say about offshore support. And Yami, did you have anything to add, or you're good with that?
Unmute. Just with the offshore support, just wanted to let you know, if you already enroll offshore without coming here, we expect you to have a student visa. And those of you who are on a tuition fee scholarship will commence that scholarship, but we won't be commencing the stipend payments until you actually come on shore and you have an Australian bank account. So I believe our team will advise you on that at the request of when you want to commence offshore. This is something that we brought in at the beginning of pandemic, and we are continuing that. You and your supervisor and your faculty will be asked to complete an offshore study form. That's to ensure that all workplace health and safety requirements have been considered, and you are able to safely undertake your studies while you're offshore. One of the things you need to be aware, a lot of the programs that we discussed today and that's available may not be available 100% for an off-campus student, and we are aware of that, and we'll support you through that, but it's just something that we need to be aware. So we do ask students to complete that off-campus study form along with the supervisor and the faculty, and we are there for you to reach out and seek assistance as you progress until you come on shore. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you. Are there other questions? I know that people have been really good about putting their questions in the chat, and I think that's a great idea. It helps us move through a lot along the way. Any other questions that you would like to ask now?
Sarah, I'm assuming all the slides will be sent around after this, will they? The
Yes,
presentations?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Super.
After the fact here, we will send out both a link to the recording and also a link. We'll send a PDF of the slides so that you do have easy access to them. Yes, I know it's a lot to take in, and we're not even actually done yet, which is the really exciting part, I think. But yeah, we will send you a copy of the slides.
Thank you.
So what we might do then, this concludes part 1 of HDR Induction, where we focus on the resources available to help support your research and your well-being, and hopefully to help you again really integrate into the UTS Researcher Community. We are going to take a little bit of a breather before part 2, because otherwise it's a long time to sit and I don't want anyone to get deep vein thrombosis. So before we take that short break, I do just want to again sort of briefly give you the teaser trailer for what we're going to cover in part 2 and why it's worth coming back after your bathroom break. We are going to be talking about, there are just things that you really, really want to know early about managing your candidature. You have rights as an HDR student, and you also have responsibilities, and you absolutely want to know what those are. Trust me. We know obviously life is full of surprises. Last couple of years been pretty good evidence of that, and so is HDR study. So you want to know what to expect, but you also want to know what your options are if and when it doesn't go to plan. And again, maybe that's information you don't need, but it's good to have in your back pocket for sure. These years of HDR study are also a really valuable time for you to hone your professional skills. And so we'll also talk a bit about how to get the most out of your HDR study in that context too. So what we'll do is we will take a short breather. We will come back at 3:30 and we will pick up from there. So go make a cup of tea, get a drink of water, do your seat yoga or whatever you're going to do. And we'll see you back here in about 5 minutes. Okay, we will pick this back up again. Hope you guys got a chance to get a drink. Stretch your legs a little bit. So, okay, welcome to part 2 of HDR Induction. So as I said, right, part 1 is really all about understanding how UTS can support your research and your well-being. And there is a lot of support, as we can see, but it's important to remember that you have to engage with that support actively and not passively. There are clear frameworks and there are stages to your candidature, but there isn't always a single obvious right next step. And so it's really, really important that you take ownership of your candidature. And that's what we're going to talk about now. So there is often a lot of independence in HDR study, and that's a good thing, right? We're all adults here. The expectation is that you are actively driving your candidature, that you're aware of your timelines, that you're aware of what is required of you as an HDR student. Basically, you will need to manage your own bureaucracy over the next few years, and we will give you the tools and the knowledge today to do that. So we also want to talk here about everything that happens outside of the research itself that makes your HDR study successful, that helps get you to where you want to be at the end of it. You know, I think one of the just really, really exciting parts of HDR study is that you're creating something new. You are generating new knowledge, right? We will be able to know something or do something or imagine something different on the other side of this than we could before, and you're going to make that possible. But alongside that, right, alongside that expert knowledge that you're creating, you're also developing and honing a huge range of skills like project management, problem solving, communicating complex ideas, doing complicated forward planning, teaching and mentoring others, managing risk. I mean, seriously, the list just goes on and on. So how can you make sure that you are approaching that thoughtfully in a way that makes sense for you? And again, you'll hear me come back to this, but each of you is coming in from a slightly different starting point. None of you has had quite exactly the same career professional experiences up to this point or the same educational experiences. And each of you wants to go on to a slightly different professional path. And each of your research is going to be a little bit different between here and there. So we provide the frameworks for support, both in GRS and your faculty at UTS more broadly, but you're the person who has to actually go from point A to point B. So again, this part of induction is focused on trying to make sure that you know what you need to do that. So here's what we're just briefly going to do here. So I am going to briefly reiterate your responsibilities and your rights as an HDR student. My colleague Val Paso, manager for the researcher quality team at GRS, is going to give you some really important information about managing your candidature. And then I'm going to come back at the end and talk about how you can use your time as an HDR student to also manage your professional development. So that is where we are going. All right, your responsibilities as an HDR. I think your first responsibility is to know the relevant policies and procedures that govern HDR study and research at UTS more broadly. I would recommend that you do, in fact, read through these now. I don't think you need to memorize them. I don't really think it's possible to memorize them, but familiarize yourself with them. And then when you have a question in the future, which you will eventually, know that these are some of the places you can look first for an answer. So the most relevant ones for you are going to be the Graduate Research Candidature Management Thesis Preparation and Submission Procedures, the UTS student rules, and particularly section 11, which references graduate research, the graduate research and supervision policy, which lays out a little bit of the balance of rights and responsibilities between you and your supervisor, and then the student rights and responsibilities policy as well, which governs students at UTS more broadly. Also, as professional researchers, you are also bound by the Australian Code for the Responsible Conduct of Research, and of course that governs a lot of what UTS does. Good news is these are all on one handy web page for you on GRS's website, and you can find them all in one place with links. You don't even have to go Googling for them. We've done it for you. So you can link to those from the GRS website. Beyond that, your major responsibilities include behaving respectfully and conducting your research ethically. You are expected to adhere to the same standards of integrity, respectful behavior, and ethical research as every other part of the UTS community. That also includes conflicts of interest, for example, when it comes to like your examiners for your thesis. You have a responsibility to maintain progress on your work. There is an expectation that you are working 35 hours per week on your project if you are a full-time student, no fewer than 35 hours per week, or 17 and a half hours per week if part-time. You are expected to know your expected work submission date. This can change over time depending on the course of your candidature. And I know my colleague Val will talk a little bit about that. So given that it can change depending on choices that you make, it is on you to know when that actually is. You have a responsibility to ask for support when you need it, particularly if something comes up that might impact your research or your candidature. Along those lines, you have a responsibility to maintain regular contact with your supervisors and to establish clear expectations of each other early. Do not go AWOL. Do not drop off the face of the planet and not talk to anybody. If you start to have difficulties in your research, you should raise it with your supervisor early so that it can be resolved. Again, everybody here hopes that your research journey is just totally bump-free and just blissful. That's just not always the reality. If you do run into challenges, you will not be the first person to have that happen. They are often resolvable, especially when support is called in early. When things drag out for a long time, it gets a little bit harder. Similarly, if a conflict arises with your supervisor, you have a responsibility to try to address and resolve it. I would really advise that you raise it early and try to address it in good faith. You have a responsibility to be an active participant in that relationship. I would suggest that you do probably speak to your supervisor first, or potentially a co-supervisor, depending on exactly what the issue is. If it's not resolved there, you can take it to your faculty responsible academic officer. If it's still not resolved there, you can absolutely bring it to GRS. HDR students and supervisors are just people. So like in any other working relationship, there are sometimes differences of expectation or working style or communication style or just personality, right? And if you do have a conflict with your supervisor, which again, hopefully you don't, but if you do, you won't be the first person to have it happen. Often it's a straightforward fix. It's just a conversation to reestablish expectations or clarify roles. And again, what you don't want to do, as with any relationship, this is good relationship advice. Don't let it fester and let the relationship go toxic. And that is when we see bad outcomes in supervision as in other parts of life. You have, of course, rights as an HDR student as well. And some of those rights are the same as any other student. You have the right to a high quality education. You have the right to timely information to support you about your program. You have the right to properly maintained and accessible resources and facilities, to clear and fair processes for resolving complaints and appealing decisions, to academic and well-being support, and to be treated equitably and with courtesy and respect. You also have some rights that are research specific. You have the right to negotiate your research topic in collaboration and conversation with your supervisor. You have the right to actively participate in your graduate research study plan and the stages of your research degree. And you have the right to change the details of your candidature within parameters. And again, Val is going to talk to you a lot more about what that looks like. And really sort of taken as a whole, what does that mean? It means that you have the right and the responsibility to be an active participant in your research journey. Hopefully this induction is the least participatory part of your whole degree. Hopefully everything else you do in your next couple of years at UTS is going to be more participatory than this. And with that, I am going to hand over to Val to talk about what that means for you in terms of your candidature and how you can really manage and take ownership of your candidature over the next few years.
Thank you, Sarah, and hello, everyone. And as an inner Westie, I apologize in advance for all the planes, trains, automobiles, and perhaps a barking dog that you will hear in the background from time to time. And excuse my voice, I'm a bit under the weather today. Mong, my colleague, will be answering any questions you have on chat so that we can get through this smoothly. And yes, thank you, Sarah. You've touched on a lot of points that I'll probably reiterate. the part of the presentation where, you know, it's the medicine. It's not the stuff that you may want to hear right now, but it's really good for you. So you hear it right now and you have an idea of what's expected of you in terms of the information and the resources and the things that people don't like doing, unfortunately, which is forms, but they're there to protect you and protect your research, as well as letting us know when anything goes wrong. So without further ado, I'm going to try the age-old issue of trying to share my screen and my presentation. Here we go. Okay, can you all see that? Oops. Come on, buddy.
Yes, thank you.
Excellent. Okay, I will get going. So first slide. Okay, so this is pretty basic stuff. The expected time that to complete your degree, whether you're a doctorate student or a master's of research, full-time, of course. Now, one thing that I will need to say to you is that this is the Bible here, and you will receive, if you can see my mouse moving, which is the procedures document. If you have any questions regarding the information here, this is a document that will help you at least in the first step of finding out all the information you need to know about what everything means. So you will see EWS being referred to throughout your candidature. That means your expected work submission date, right? So that's the date you're expected to submit by in total. Now, that doesn't mean that won't change. As Sarah said before, it can change throughout your candidature because of various reasons, as we will see. But when we refer to as EWS date, that's the date you're supposed to finish, right? And have submitted everything by, not the day where you just decide to start thinking about submitting. It all happens before that. So you're working towards at the very last that day. Yes, Sarah has spoken about your graduate research study plan, which needs to be created within the first 2 weeks of your candidature. Again, you will find all this information in the procedures, but just little things that you need to know straight away. This is a live document because it changes with your candidature. Your plan will change as your research grows and becomes clearer, sharper perhaps, and the focus, or you might have found a different direction, or perhaps you change courses, right? You decide you're going into a different stream because your research is taking you that way. That is perfectly normal. It's not unusual for this to happen. So just be mindful that all of it happens at any stage. We're talking about 4 years in some cases longer if you're part-time. It's expected that things will change throughout your candidature. It's not something that you need to be afraid of in that sense. There are stages, there are 3 stages for all candidatures, and these are important, and these are set by your faculty. So they will send you, and depending on the day that you've started and other circumstances, the stage assessments happen at different times for each student. Some faculties do them all at the same time, some faculties do them individually. So you will see that. Now, review of progress, that is something that happens at the same time every year. There's one per year, and you have to submit one regardless, even if you are on leave of absence. And a lot of students sometimes do not realize that this needs to happen even when they're on leave of absence, but this absolutely must be submitted. And the reason is because if you fail to submit a progress report, then you will get an unsatisfactory outcome. And this will be noted in your candidature and potentially later on could have implications with your candidature. Now, if you're on leave of absence, you will get a considered satisfactory result, right? Which takes into account for the fact that you've actually been on leave for part of that year or most of that year, or something's happened, right? Now, people always moan and groan about having to do the review of progress, but this is a very good tool to identify if there are any issues throughout your candidature year. It's here that you have documented that something's happened or something failed to happen. So look at it as an opportunity to be able to to set down what actually happened throughout your research year, right? Whether you had personal complications and therefore it affected your research, or the lab was shut down because of COVID in this day and age. So just look at it as an opportunity to reflect on what has happened. It's really important. And that way you've got a documented evidence of what's happened to you in the year. And as Sarah has said, do not do head in the sand. That's the worst thing you can do. Make sure you are always onto it as soon as possible. Okay, move on to the next one. Supervisory panel. Now, the graduate research and supervision policy will talk extensively about this, so make sure you have a look at that. Every student should have a principal supervisor and a co-supervisor. Some students have external supervisors, some students have 3 co-supervisors or 5 supervisors, but at the bare minimum, you must have a principal supervisor and a co-supervisor, and they have to be registered. And the policy will advise what that means, but it's more important for your supervisor to know that if you look at your panel in your record and somebody's missing, it's because there's something. It's not that the supervisor doesn't want to. We might be going through a registration process at the time, and then we'll put them on when they're registered, or they have to find a different co-supervisor. But if you ever at all have any issues or are concerned about what is on your record in terms of your supervisory panel, please let us know straight away. So as Sarah said, it's important that you're active about your student record. If you see something that's doesn't seem quite right, don't ignore it. Just let us know, because sometimes, we're all human. Certainly in the past when there were paper forms, sometimes emails don't go through, or they're going through junk mail and we don't get a notification. But it's important that you make yourself familiar with these policies and your record, your student record, what it should look like, what it should say, and who should be on your panel. And always keep open the lines of communication, very important. Coursework census date. So you will hear this a lot throughout the year. It's throughout each session, we'll have a census date, and this is the date in which you can make changes to your candidature if you need to. Now, one thing to be very aware of is that it will be different depending on whether you have to do coursework in that session. So if you have coursework that's compulsory, I believe some faculties have compulsory coursework that you have to do, you must make any changes before that coursework census date. If not, then you go by the research census date, and our website will have clear guidelines on what those dates are every session. They change every session, so you need to have a look and keep an eye out, as well as the principal dates that you will see online. And we link to those on our website as well. So as Sarah said, we will provide you with these slides anyway, but these are very important. One thing that happens is that people ignore emails when we're saying to you, the census date is approaching, the census date is approaching. Do not ignore emails. I think I didn't read my emails must be the online equivalent of the dog at my homework. You're expected to read your emails. If you sometimes we have students who are also staff members. You forward your student email to your staff email if that makes it easier. That's what I do, and so I get my student emails, so I never miss anything. So it's important. It's one of your responsibilities to actually communicate with us via your student email, and to also keep track of your student email, because that is the official communication for the university, and it's very important, as it is for us. If you said, I didn't get that email, we can go and check and see whether sometimes we have glitches with our systems and the emails don't go out for whatever reason. So we check to make sure that you've received the emails or not. Now, I can't see what it says up there because it's being covered by the, I think it's talking about LOA, but it's covered by the top mute thing. You must have completed one session before LOA. You can ask for LOA. there is a maximum of 365 days for 1 year and a minimum of 8 weeks of leave of absence that a student can apply for. Now, please note, this is not guaranteed that you will get it. It's an application process. So, and that's the limit and the minimum of what you can apply for in terms of leave of absence, whether you need to for whatever reason, and your leave of absence are usually personal reasons. It means you cannot work on your PhD or your master's by research. It means you cannot do any work. It could be that you're ill. If you're ill, we encourage you to submit a leave of absence application straight away. In fact, as soon as you feel as though you may be struggling, have the conversation with your supervisors and make sure you fill in one of these as soon as possible if you think you need some time out. Now, during your leave of absence, you will only have access to the library online services. So you won't have access to any of the services that you would while you're enrolled from time and expected to be, so to speak, attending. But you still have some access if you need to. And certainly you can always email us if there are any issues. Some students email us and say, oh, I'm actually coming back from leave of absence early. Can I come back early? Yes, you can. You need to let us know. But it's important that you let us know as soon as possible, or I need more time. Absolutely. Anything that you feel might be an issue, the best thing is to act early, as Sarah said, the earlier the better, because nothing is a problem until you leave it, until it's too late, right? And so that's when everything becomes a problem. If we catch everything early on, we can do something about it. And it's not as complicated. Now, be mindful that this is very different to the annual leave that you would have, and this is something that you will need to discuss with your supervisor personally. So for example, if I had to go to the doctor and I had to take the whole day off, or I had a week with the flu, that's not the purpose of the official leave of absence form. It's for a considerable amount of time away. That's why you've got a minimum of 8 weeks leave of absence. Anything else, you don't need to tell us about it. You need to discuss it with your supervisor and your faculty so that they're aware that, just 1 week that you've been away, or 2 weeks, or it's Christmas and you're taking 2 weeks off. Now, there's a little bit there about exceptional circumstances. Like everything, there are exceptions to rules, and everything will be assessed on a case-by-case basis. And hopefully you will never have to have recourse to that. But if you do, it requires extra supporting documentation, and then we will advise you at that time what that requires, and your faculty would be advised, and other people will be involved in that as well. So just be mindful. And also any other leave of absence as well, it's not that it's an entitlement, it's that you have to apply for it and it has to be approved. So it will go to your supervisor will have to agree with it, then it will go to your faculty, and your faculty will have to endorse it, and then it'll come to us for processing. Okay, I think that's enough. I don't want to confuse you. And that's it from us. There's something missing here as well, which is, but I can add it and send it to you, Sarah, so that we can use it later on. And it's extension of candidature. Now, for whatever reason, sometimes students get to the end and they go, oops, I need a little bit more time. Make sure you submit an extension of candidature as soon as you think you may need more time. And by that, I mean not halfway through your candidature period. It has to be at least 2 months prior to your EWS approaching, right? So that's the very least time. So at 6 months, between 6 months and 2 months to go, you need to let us know, I think I'm going to need more time to finish. Certainly during the initial stages of the pandemic, there was a lot of consideration around extensions for some students because, of course, labs were shut down, etc. People couldn't access other people if they needed to interview research subjects, etc. So those things will be considered, and always you will need to provide documentation for any changes of candidature that you require. Now, one thing that you will see on our website as well, along with the guidelines that Sarah provided will be guidelines for application and eligibility for extension of candidature, guidelines for leave of absence. So there are also separate guidelines around that that you will need to, you can have a look at. It's all there. And also the forms are on the same page as well. So you will see that all on our GRS webpage. I think that's covered most of the things that are a bit of a rub for us in terms of where issues arise. But we're always open to questions. Contact us. So this is our email. I will send also the name of our team, Sarah, for you to distribute, but it's important that you email us at GRS in case any of us are away. It's always better to have the generic email, because if you just email me personally and I'm gone for 6 weeks to Hawaii, I wish, and nobody gets this very urgent email that you've just sent through, we have a problem. So it's important that you email the generic email address, and that way somebody can pick up your request. Again, reach out if you have any questions at all. We're here to help you. And if you read the procedures, you will at least have a really good idea of what you need to do if you get into any trouble.
Thank you, Val. There's a question in the chat about if someone, for example, needed to leave the country urgently, for example. Oh, and Mong is all over it. Okay, great. Never mind. I should have known Mong would have been all over it.
Yes, Mong, that's why I brought her on, because I'm trying to concentrate on the slide. And I saw there were lots of questions. I thought, I'm not going to be able to do both at the same time. So she's there to help out.
Great. And again, to reiterate, if there are other questions, now is a great time to ask them. You can pop them in the chat. I'll give the obligatory pause and see if anyone wants to ask their question out loud. But again, you're definitely feel free to keep typing them away to us. Okay, well, as I said, if more questions do occur to you, please do, you may put them in the chat. You may also, as Val says, email us at that generic GRS email address, and we will answer your question as soon as we can. Okay, so I have probably about, I'd say maybe about 20 minutes or so for us left. I know this is a long session and you're displaying remarkable stamina. The part I want to talk to you now, I think, is a really important part. And I think it's one of the parts that is easy to forget sometimes, because we get so focused, totally understandably, so focused on the research project itself that sometimes it's easy to lose sight of the forest for the trees and all the other really important work that you're doing alongside that thesis research project while you're in HDR. Because I think that HDR study, right, it's not just about getting to submission. That's a huge milestone, but presumably also you are here because you want to be able to do something different on the other side than you could before. And it might just be about the credential. You want the extra letters after your name to be able to get access to a new level in your career. It might be about leveraging the expert knowledge that you're going to develop. It might be about leveraging the expert skills that you're going to develop. But most of us, I do think, are undertaking HDR study specifically so that we have new kinds of opportunities on the other side than we did before. And so I think it's important to think about these years as an opportunity to develop not just your research, but also to develop yourself as a professional. And that's really where the HDR capability framework and the graduate research study plan come into the picture here at UTS. So the HDR capability framework, which I referenced earlier, and you can also find on the GRS website, it's a pedagogical framework for HDR student development at UTS. And the goal is to embed the capabilities required to develop research knowledge and skills relevant to a diverse range of careers and to deliver a diverse range of research outputs relevant to your discipline. So again, in slightly more straightforward language, this is about giving you a framework and some guidelines and some goalposts to help you think about all the other skills development that will power your research, right? It's going to be really, really difficult to do good research if you don't understand methodology, but also that will power, again, whatever that future professional pathway looks like for you on the other side. And you will use your graduate research study plan, negotiated in consultation with your supervisor, to set your own personal development goals in each of these 5 areas that you can see there. And that you can explore in more detail on the website. And these are going to be goals that make sense for you, the skills that you already have, the needs of your research, and where you want to go professionally afterwards. So I want to talk through the 5 core areas here, again, in just a little bit more detail, and to just gently hint at places around UTS where you might be able to go to get just a little bit more support in these areas, if that's an area that you want to engage in. So the first one is research knowledge and skills. And again, this is really traditionally the core focus of research study, but now it is widely recognized as needing to be complemented by some of these other capabilities. This is about things like knowing how to conduct a literature review, knowing how to develop research questions, understanding how to not only choose, but also justify a methodology, understanding how to analyze your data, and being able to reflect critically on your findings. So these are the, again, core research skills. Where can you find resources to flesh this out for you? Well, GRS, the library, ResHub, eResearch, also the ATN Frontiers. And this is going to come up here in lots of these sections. The ATN Frontiers is an innovative professional development program that has been designed specifically for HDRs by the Australian Technology Network of Universities, and UTS is a member of that. All of these ATN Frontiers programs, again, they're online, so they're easily accessible. They are specifically oriented towards skills that we know are going to be really important in future research careers. So things like data, innovation, communication, leadership. And you can find more information about this on GRS's website. You can participate in them at any point during your HDR journey. So they're not for specific time points, really. And it's just an additional resource that's available to you. The second area is research communication. So here again, we're talking about skills like the ability to write and present effectively, to differentiate your work from other people's. How is what you are doing new and different and important? To be able to speak the language of your field to expert audiences, obviously you need to be able to communicate in a scholarly fashion to other scholars through conference presentations, through journal articles, but also ideally, I think most of us would like to be able to communicate compellingly to scholars outside of our core research area, but also to non-expert audiences. So if you want to have an impact publicly in your community, on policy, through the media, this is also about developing the skills that help you communicate to that entire range of audiences. And again, here you can find resources at GRS, at the library, ResHub, Aspire, ATN Frontiers. So again, a broad range there. The third category in the capability framework is research governance and research management. This is about understanding and demonstrating ethics, integrity. It comes back to that data management piece. And it's also about being able to self-manage as well. There's a lot of time management and a little bit managing of other people that's sort of embedded in that as well. Managing your supervisor, managing your other stakeholders. This is sort of the research admin category, I think. And you can find resources for this, again, GRS, UTS Library, ResHub, all places that can help you better understand and manage your requirements in this area. Fourth category is impact and engagement. This is, again, about taking your research and really broadening it out to the big picture. This is about explaining why your work matters outside of a scholarly context. What are the broader societal questions or implications of what you're doing? This is about developing collaboration, networks, about managing some of those broader relationships. And some of the people around campus who can help you in this area are library, ResHub, Aspire, and again, Frontiers. And then the final component to the capability framework is the career development component. And really this is part and parcel of this whole broader point that we ought to all be thinking thoughtfully and proactively about planning your professional development and your next steps. There's no question that research education leads to a very wide range of careers. And there's a hugely diverse range of organizations and industries that are using research and research-derived skills to solve really important problems. So I think this is about understanding the paths that are open to you. And as I said, being sort of thoughtful and proactive about it. So GRS can help support this, UTS Library, ResHub, Aspire, UTS Careers, and again, Frontiers. So to come back, and I just want to briefly touch on this, and I know that this is a little bit of a long way away for when you're starting out, but it is useful to think about this. To come back to the big question, why does engaging with this framework and taking your personal and professional development seriously matter? I think, again, point one, because you are doing this for a reason. And like I said, for most of you, it's because you do want to do something different professionally on the other side than you can right now. And I think many of you are going to be pursuing diverse career paths where this kind of professional development and awareness of your professional skills matters. Even 5 years ago, half of PhDs in Australia worked outside of higher ed. Similar numbers in USA, the UK, Canada, France. So really globally, that's what we're seeing. And for anyone who's been following along, I believe we can safely assume those numbers are higher now. But even if you are planning and you do, in fact, go into an academic career in higher ed, as we know, right, researchers don't just research, they manage HDR students, they teach classes, they write grants, they run committees, they take on administrative roles. Professional academics do a hugely wide range of functions and need a hugely wide range of skills. And these are the skills that the HDR capability framework will also help you develop. Again, if we want to ask where are Australian HDRs going if they're not going into higher ed, in the private sector, the largest industries are banking, finance, and insurance, mining, oil, and energy, and medical, pharmaceutical. And public sector, it's medical, pharmaceutical is really big. That doesn't completely capture the new potential, I think, for innovation. For example, ESG investing, I think, has a lot of interest in research and research-generated skills, but also for leadership in established sectors. I think it's really striking that a few years ago, 19 out of the 20 largest ASX-listed companies had PhDs in their senior executive teams. And even now, there's 11 federal MPs with PhDs. So to my mind, what does HDR study prepare you to do? Well, basically, I really think pretty much anything you want if you're thoughtful about it. And that's partly because not only do HDRs have this really deep specialist knowledge, but they also generally have really strong critical thinking, creative and complex problem-solving skills. They've developed strong independence and resourcefulness. And these are, in fact, the most in-demand skills in Australia. There was a 2020 survey of 3 million Australian job ads, and they identified the most in-demand skills as being, again, communication, planning, collaboration, project management, stakeholder management, problem-solving, organization and time management, creativity, attention to detail, decision-making, data analysis. What does this look like? It looks like the skills that the HDR capability framework highlights. It also, by the way, really strongly correlates with other research about what the future of work is going to look like. The research we have about the future of work says that we're all about to spend 100% more time doing complex problem solving. And that's something that PhDs and master's students are really good at. So HDRs don't always realize they have these skills, which is why I just want to highlight it early. Employers don't always realize it either, and so it's partly on us to articulate it for them. They don't always realize it till they hire HDRs. And then there was a 2018 survey of Australian employers where they rated people with postgraduate research degrees, so people like you, as having, they were the most satisfied with you as employees. And so this is partly just about so that down the road, you're not just fully aware of your expert knowledge. We all are keenly aware of the expert knowledge we develop as HDRs, but also so that you can articulate and highlight your expert skills. And that's hopefully what the HDR capability framework will help you to do, so that you're not just developing them passively, but you can also actively identify and actively pursue them. And that is where the graduate research study plan then comes in, because it is, the capability framework is a bit of an overarching guide to the kinds of skills and capabilities you are likely developing as a researcher. But the GRSP is your actual own personal roadmap. When should you do a GRSP? Right now. You should do it literally right now. Ideally, we say in the first 2 weeks. Now, if your first 2 weeks have already passed, don't panic, just go do it, because it is about setting goals that make sense to you. Now, you're going to do this in consultation and negotiation with your supervisor. Normally, I would suggest that you should start with a little bit of self-reflection and ask yourself, well, what do you think are your existing skills? What are your existing strengths that you can build on? You should ask yourself, what does your research demand? Again, part of the capability framework and the GRSP is making sure that you're developing skills that make sense for your research project. So what's that going to look like for you? And then finally, also, where do you want to be on the other side of this? And you might want to emphasize different kinds of skills and capabilities depending on what that starting and ending point are. Obviously, that can all change, of course, but the more that your supervisor knows about your goals and aspirations, the better they'll be able to support you. So I would suggest that you do that bit of self-reflection and then go and have a conversation with your supervisor and get their expert input because they have seen and done this before. Figure out where your gaps are and then look around the uni at all of those units that spoke in the first part of this induction for places to fill them. And then just keep coming back to it, definitely at a minimum every year, but maybe every 6 months, just to make sure it's still doing what you want it to do to keep yourself on track. As Val said, this is a living document. This is not set and forget. You want to make sure that as your research evolves, as your goals evolve, this is continuing to kind of keep pace and set aspirations for you that are making sense for you. So the GRSP is an online form available through Research Master. You can navigate to it through Research Master or through the GRS website. As I said, do a little bit of self-reflection, have that conversation with your supervisor. Then it will be up to you to fill out the GRSP online, and then you'll send it to your supervisor for approval. That is how the process will work. So it is not just about the capability framework or the GRSP, though. We do support you through other avenues of professional development. So one area that we are working on right now is through our online Canvas careers modules. There are several of them. Career design and decision making is live right now. That's about supporting you to self-reflect on your skills and your interests and map those onto common post-HDR career paths. It's about sort of learning how to actively construct and design your career. What is it that you want and how do you actually get there? That is live now. In the very near future, there will also be modules that are live on job search strategies, writing job applications, and interview skills and career pitching. All of those, to come back to a question that was asked earlier, will focus on both the academic and the non-academic job market. So we want your options to be open. We want to support you down both those paths. They do look a little bit different. It's good to know what those differences look like. So those modules are all about, hopefully, again, running the spectrum of the career paths that are open to you after your HDR journey. You may possibly, while you're at UTS, want to consider a professional placement. And if you're not totally sure what a professional placement is, it's like an internship, but for grownups. It's a little bit higher level. It's about going to an external partner, an external host organization, and undertaking a research project on their behalf during your course of study. It can be a great way to build your professional network, to gain some hands-on experience, to develop your CV. And again, depending on where you are in your professional career, you may not need that if you've come straight out of an honors degree, or you may want that. It's also about understanding how your research or research similar to yours is used in non-academic contexts. Organizations that use research or research skills to solve real-world problems include, but are definitely not limited to, industry, business, government, startups, indigenous community organizations, not-for-profits, NGOs, cultural or other community sector partners, and you can potentially undertake a professional placement with any of them. I think that undertaking a professional placement can be a way to explore a potential future career path and just see what that version of research looks like in real time. If you are interested, we have an event coming up in May 10th, that's going to highlight the experiences and the advice of some other UTS HDRs who have undertaken a research internship. And if you think you might ever be interested in that for yourself, it can be worth hearing what those folks have to say about the professional doors that it opened for them. I would really advise you to network relentlessly whilst you are in HDR. 80% of job vacancies aren't publicly advertised. Even if you're not actively looking for jobs, it can be good to get a sense of the ways that research is being used in a variety of contexts and of the kinds of roles that exist for someone with your skills and your background and your interests. And of course, this is also an important part of building your academic profile. You really want that word of mouth about your research. I would encourage all of you to set up your discovery profile through Symplectic. That's a way to take your UTS profile and make it public so that you can help people find and engage with the work that you're doing and build a little bit of that public profile. It can also be a place to start to keep a little bit of a portfolio of your successes. And I would absolutely encourage you as you go through your journey to save documentation of your accomplishments. Sometimes 3 years down the road or longer, it's really hard to find that email that the student wrote about how amazing your teaching in particular was. PDF it and save it along the way. You will be really glad that you have that. And then finally, again, to come back to something that Brett was talking about earlier, UTS Careers also offers resources that are accessible and often applicable to HDRs. I think that sometimes it does come down to the question that you are asking, and there are times, particularly if it's a really nuanced question about the academic career path, you are sometimes maybe better off talking to your supervisor or your faculty, but a lot of these resources, again, make full sense for HDRs. They have a professional mentoring platform, a platform that will rate your resume in real time, basically. Going Global is a resource that will help you find jobs and understand employment markets around the world. They also offer one-on-one career coaching sessions as well. Okay, this was a lot of information. Let me just sum it back up in three main points. One, there are so many places across UTS that want to support your research and you yourself as a person. The GRS website can help to connect you to them. GRS is here to help, and we are here to listen. Number two, and I know Val really hit this hard, be an active participant in your candidature. If and when challenges arise, address them sooner and proactively rather than later and passively. And then three, I hope that you will be thoughtful and proactive in how you think about your professional development while you're in HDR study. I truly believe that HDRs are really we are the future of work. I believe that in my heart of hearts, and we're here to support you as you become an excellent researcher, and we're here to help you as you plan for whatever your next professional steps are afterwards. So if you can take those three main points home, I'll be super, super happy. Are there any other questions right now that you would like to ask, either about the professional development stuff, to come back to the candidature management? I can see again that people are continuing to put these questions in the chat, which is great. Any other questions? I will also come back and try to answer some of the ones that I can see are for me. Okay, I want to reiterate again that we are here to help. You may always reach out to me I'm very friendly. I like your emails. Feel free to ask questions. You can also contact, again, GRS at that generic grs@uts.edu.au address. And if it is a question for me, it will make its way to me as well. Thank you all so much for your time here. We are really, really excited that you are here with us. And I have extremely fond memories of my HDR study, and I hope that you do in the future as well. So thank you so much for your time. Hopefully we will be seeing you here in the near future. And yeah, good luck with the journey. It's exciting.
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you all.
That was
Thanks,
brilliant, Sarah.
everyone.
Thank you so much.
Yes, it was great.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for your help, James. Thank you.